I'm gonna tell you this, man. Two things. I'm proud of you,
Appreciate you.
but not on some corny like therapist. I realize we don't hear it enough.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Right now, I met you for the first time today, and considering what y'all built, what you're handling, what you're shouldering, and hearing all the work you're doing to make sure your kids have a better outcome or a better childhood than you had, bro. I'm proud of you.
Welcome back to another episode of Bros Chat. And well, hold up. I done messed up. You know what I'm saying? I'm on my Eli. You know what I'm saying? I got to get into my Jew bag. You heard? You know what I'm saying? What it do? It's your boy Jew. And welcome back to another episode of the Bros Chat. And this is one of y'all favorite, parts of the show where, we have conversation amongst men, you know what I mean? And talk about how we feel and think. And, we got your boy Eli here. What's up, Eli?
Yeah, it feels so weird being on this end.
Yo, it is.
I'm usually introducing, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's your boy Y Eli, man. Look up the clip Y Eli. People still ask me to this day about Y Eli, man. Y'all can find me on social media, the real Y Eli. Yeah.
And you still hate women because of, you holding a woman accountable for.
Listen, if you ask them, they're gonna say it. But listen,
You told her about her worth though.
I just asked her why she was dealing with a married man. I didn't think that was a reasonable, unreasonable ask. Like, so.
Your standards are too high.
Clearly, like, so.
Speaking of standards, a man of standards, you know what I'm saying? We have our brother Jeff here. Introduce yourself and tell people where they can find you. Tell them what you do. Give us the whole rundown about you.
What's going on, y'all? My name is Jeff St. James, and yes, that's my actual literal name. My podcast is Ask a Brother Podcast, which is currently on Instagram, Spotify, and TikTok. In the very near future, we're hoping to expand. Sorry, not Spotify. We're hoping to expand on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But right now, it's YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And just excited to be here. Yes, I am a licensed therapist as of now. And, recently entering this space this year, just excited to join this space of contributing to conversations and hopefully making more meaningful connections with people and like-minded people that want to see growth both in the community and society at large.
Great. And when you say you're a therapist, licensed therapist, like, is it a particular? I don't know. Like in therapy, like, isn't it different sections or orders of what you can have conversations about, or do you speak on everything when it comes to therapy?
Well, as far as podcasting, I could talk about anything I want.
Yeah.
But as far as therapy, each therapist can pretty much specialize in something. They can focus on certain particular presenting issues or problems. And then there's some that's just pretty eclectic to work with most people. At this point in my career, I'm more or less a specialist. Okay. So I'm a prolonged exposure, certified prolonged exposure consultant. So my job is to help therapists get trained to be able to identify, screen, and help people reduce their PTSD symptoms if they've gone through significant trauma in the past.
I got a question about that right afterwards, but let me start off by asking you, and on I'm gonna ask Eli as well. At what age or at what time do you believe that as people we should even look into getting therapy? And what does that look like?
Okay. You want me to go?
Yeah. Sure.
Well, people can technically go at any time. Part of the reason why I'm actually standing out is that there is a major problem in the field of therapy itself. If a huge demographic is not going, not engaging, and not staying, a lot of people who look at that, meaning men and boys, a lot of people conclude like, what's wrong with men? What's wrong with boys? I view it as more aligned with like a store analogy. You owned a store and you had all these products on the shelf, and there's a store across the street, and people are going to the other store, or they're just not coming to your store purchasing anything. Only a horrifically bad business owner would blame the customers. Instead of recognizing maybe it's your customer service, maybe it's the quality of your products, maybe it's a whole variety of things. But instead, when it comes to therapy, when the same exact thing happens, they put the blame on the ones that's not showing up. My lens in terms of therapy is part of the, regardless of the age, we have to approach therapy through the lens where we need much more effective, uh, culturally competent, aware, and more specifically, people who are aware of the unique differences and challenges for
Mm-hmm.
boys and men, and specifically Black men and Black boys. That's actually not common. And in a field that's dominated by, I believe, 75%, I've seen lower percentages of about 75%, and some are stating that it's trending higher, that's currently female. And when you get down to actual Black psychologists and Black psychiatrists, you're teetering on about 4 to 5%
Mm-hmm.
total. And that doesn't even mean that they're good.
Mm-hmm.
That just means that they're Black. So it's one thing to say, oh, everybody should go, but we have to deal with the reality of there's a problem with the product in the field itself. So my job is to make sure that if I am encouraging people, and especially men and Black men and Black boys especially, your first focus is to try to target people who actually advertise that that's a population that they specifically work with.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter if it's a man or woman. Doesn't even matter necessarily their race. If they're not promoting that they specialize and prioritize the demographic, probably not the people that you want to be aligning yourself with and actually putting yourself to in therapy sessions with.
But you do believe it's a necessity for all people?
No, believe it or not.
How do you distinguish that? Like, some people just
yeah.
go, think they need to go, and then some people just against it.
Yeah, so I view it on a spectrum in terms of what's happened to you, where you are in life, and what your plans and goals are. A lot of men's and boys' best moves were when they started going to the gym, working with a trainer, working with a life coach,
Mm-hmm.
having a male mentor. When the relationships around you are very healthy
Mm-hmm.
and beneficial, the likelihood for therapy potentially could be not even necessary, because you have a resiliency factor and you have a support circle around you that really helps you to be able to make it through various life's challenges. Therapy, can be for anyone, but I don't think everybody even needs it. And number two, I actually think that the therapeutic realm has actually harmed many of the males and boys and men that have gone for this very reason, because there was misalignment, there was miscommunication, they didn't understand the unique challenges of men, and there was internalized misandry that's guiding what's happening in these spaces.
Gotcha.
I'll give you an example. Third and fourth wave feminist ideology. There's some toxic components to it. There's a particular viewpoint of how they tend to view and frame situations involving men or women. If you have a woman that self-identifies as that is a therapist, that's doing one-on-one sessions, doing family sessions, and is doing couples counseling, and she tends to lean more on the side of women than she does men, could you see a scenario where she may potentially not be helping when it comes to the desired outcomes? If the man wants the relationship to work and she's focusing primarily on how the woman feels in the moment. And men talk about all the time when they go into couples therapy, it feels like they're getting jumped. It's just a tag team.
Yep.
Where we're just listening to her vent all the time. I'm having to defend myself. And every time I say any one or two little things, we're now dealing with her emotions over what I said, even if it was true. That's a lot of men's actual experiences. And a lot of couples therapists will say it's substantially harder for them. Their more common experience is when they're having couples issues, when they start to try to hold the woman accountable. This is when she says, I don't like the therapist. Yep. This is when she says, I think we need to go to a different therapist.
Yo, didn't I tell you that's my experience?
That actually happens a lot. A lot. And the problem is, if you as a therapist don't set the tone, if you are inexperienced, or worse, you're in agreement with it, you're not challenging narcissistic, ego-driven, selfish things that are happening in a session as much as you should, or equally. And men are feeling like the person that's supposed to be helping is only creating an environment where she gets to shit on me.
So how do you create that balance? Because, when it comes to couple therapy, I hear some men say, they want a male therapist, where the women say they want a female therapist, but then both of them seem to think like, if you get a male therapist, the woman now feels like you and the male therapist is jumping her. And then when you get a female therapist, now the man is thinking the female therapist and the woman is jumping him. So how do you get to a balance where both parties don't feel like they're being attacked? But
The starting thing that you're actually supposed to communicate to a couple is that neither of you are my client. The marriage itself is my focus.
Mm.
So I'm not siding with either of you.
Mm.
I'm going to listen to both of you. I'm going to give you both time to speak, and I'm going to honor both of your perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you start to see things be a little lopsided in the other direction, it's your job to intervene, pause, get the other person's feedback, and start helping them to develop skills in real time in front of you, so that they can start having the tools to practice in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
What tends to happen is 40 to 50, not even 40, if a 50-minute session, 40 minutes she been talking.
Mm-hmm.
That's a therapist who's not doing what they're supposed to do.
Gotcha.
If every time he says something, she reacts more to how she feels about what he said than actually honoring and acknowledging what he said, and if she actually did it, your job as the therapist is to not let her off the hook. And now we're going to prioritize and focus on just your feelings and emotions. What happens is, in a feminized environment, which unfortunately is the case in mental health, which is the case in education, especially higher education and in HR departments, we have become so feminized where we've elevated female emotions to the degree where it can dictate and change the atmosphere. It can control a room. It can control a family. It can control a household. And when you don't check that in the therapy session, 1 or 2 sessions, the man should be able to see very clearly if this is what's happening.
Yeah, I just hate the fact that sometimes, and I'm not saying to neglect your partner feelings, but every answer can't be based off feelings. And that's why we even, our slogan is logic over feelings. Everything is not about feeling. You could feel this way. You can always feel that way. But what's right and wrong doesn't have to necessarily deal with feelings. You know what I mean? So it's hard to, get that understanding. But I want to ask you too, Eli, like, have you considered therapy, and do you think, without getting in too deep and depending on how much you want to say on it, is like, what's that process? Do you know what you would be looking for? And would you be willing to consider even starting that process, as a Black man that went through? Because I believe as Black men, even everything you stated, like, we're built to just avoid and go on and do whatever that, because we're so like, we got to do it. We got to provide. We got to build this. We got to live through this. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes we don't realize we're going through trauma. So I'll share my experience, but I want to ask you, Eli, first, like, do you consider, getting therapy, or are you against it?
I've done therapy before, a couple of sessions, and unfortunately, then she had got into a car accident. She's still alive. Well, you know what I mean? She had got into a car accident.
Whoa.
And
I won't be his therapist.
Yeah, so the sessions had they had stopped, obviously, because she had to recover and stuff like that. I'm not against therapy, but I have found other ways that I am getting that therapy without having to go to therapy, and I like that route that I'm going through because it's much more intimate, and it's me dealing with myself. Like there's nothing there's no excuses. Like, you know what I mean? And I found therapy through other means, and I kind of like that route that I'm in now. So, but I'm not against therapy. I still might go and exercise because I understand that I do have a lot of trauma. Even with my mom, me and my mom have a great relationship now. You know my mom.
Yeah.
And even when we talk all the time, it's just like there is still some trauma there with my mom, even with my aunt and stuff like that. A lot of prominent Black women in my life that have left some trauma on me that I am still working through, but I'm able to acknowledge that. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be like, nah, that trauma doesn't exist and I'm trying to bury it. I know that trauma exists, and I'm actively working to better myself and, get over that trauma and build that relationship. So yeah, I'm not against it. I might revisit it,
I appreciate you sharing that. And I know, Jeff, you said something about like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to just share my experience. And I was like, the reason why I started therapy, one was, I did couples therapy, and now I also placed all my children in therapy just so, and I think like even in the back of my mind, I feel like, damn, why am I getting my kids to talk to someone else about their problem while they're not talking to me? But I also realized that sometimes it's not easy coming to your parents to talk about things. And then the therapist also, if it's something that they believe that is, you know, you know, that you need to know as a parent, they'll inform you. You know what I'm saying? Like if it's something like, oh, your kid is thinking something dangerous or whatever the case may be. But I question, even, am I doing the right thing as a parent? That's one.
Mhm.
And then when I'm in my relationship, therapy session, I also feel like it's aligned to support the woman, as you say. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I feel like they coddle her, and I'm like, yo, wrong is wrong, and I'm a more of a wrong is wrong and right is right type of person. I don't need the, oh, but you felt this way. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But I also feel like the collar. And then me personally, I experienced a near death situation, and then I went to therapy for myself.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna share this one thing. I don't remember the therapist's name, but he was trying to put me on drugs without hearing my story. And I was highly offended. And he was like, "Well, I'm licensed," and this dude was basically yelling at me. And I'm like, "Who the fuck you talking to? One,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? I'm going through something, and you can't tell me the first way to help me is by me being on drugs." And he's like, "Well, I can't help you if you don't do drugs."
Mhm.
And I want to know, like, we I said originally I wanted to speak to a black man
Mhm.
because I think that's what you're supposed to do, because he could adapt, he could understand what I'm going through. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But is it a color thing? Is it a gender thing? Like, how do we select that therapist? And do you think that some therapists are just accustomed to doing their things a certain way,
Yeah.
and everybody has to fold to that order? Or should we acknowledge and take it, case by case?
I think we have to get to a place where we have to, like you said, reevaluate the seriousness of how we're going about approaching the type of therapist we want to work with. What tends to happen in most people's minds is almost, if they got the degree, they got the background, they're good to
That's
go.
exactly what he said to me.
In reality, most, I don't say most, a huge percentage of therapists that I've come across are horrifically bad. They're
Mm,
not good therapists.
mm,
They, like you said, they'll just rush to prescriptions.
mm,
They'll rush to trying to get you medicated. They'll rush to referring you to certain things that perhaps you're not even ready for.
mhm,
And they'll also, like you said, with your experience with the couples therapy, they'll have a tendency to pick a side.
mhm,
And it's one thing to know that in advance, but obviously most people don't until they try.
mhm,
I think we have to start with going into it, being open to seeing it kind of like fast food restaurants. You got to find out which one you kind of like. And yeah, you may have to tell your story a couple times. But if you're a little bit more selective on the one front, people can base it on race, they can base it on gender. But what I'm basically trying to warn people about is race and gender people that fall in that category aren't monolithic.
mm,
Just because they're black doesn't mean they get you.
Mm.
Just because he's a black man doesn't mean he understands you and is a true ally,
for
right?
sure.
Some men said the most destructive misandry they experienced was when they were the most vulnerable and tried to meet with a black woman,
Mm. Is
right?
that like I need my mommy complex, they would say? Because I've heard that
No,
before.
it's just that she was available, or
Mhm,
that's where they were signed, and then they get in there and she spends so much time defending the women that's not in the room that damaged and brought him to where he's at in life and how
Mm.
he's come to. They spend so much time defending the mother,
mhm,
defending the sister, defending the ex, defending this, defending that, where he doesn't feel seen or heard.
mhm,
As crazy as it sounds, I actually think the way in which men tend to get better is not necessarily strictly through the therapeutic environment, believe it or not.
mhm,
I actually think a life coach that has a therapeutic background is the absolute best approach for most men.
Mm.
Why? Because most men actually start to feel better when they're doing better.
mhm,
So if you were depressed, if there's something that's causing a depression, if you went through a really bad breakup, you could tell me your story 20 times.
mm,
I'm going to check in on you, and if you signed up for that gym membership, if you started eating X, Y, and Z that I told you you need to start eating,
mhm,
if you cut that phone off your devices at a certain time to make sure your butt stays asleep, that you socialize with people a few times in a week, and you can still tell me your story. A life coach is going to already, that's their direction by default.
Mm-hmm.
As you start becoming more mobile, as your neurotransmitters start working better,
Mm-hmm.
as your body starts to regulate, a lot of what you feel as you've been kind of suppressing, you start to move different. You start to feel better. It's like, it's one of these things of like, how can you make progress if you don't make a step? The therapeutic environment, a lot of it's been hijacked by a lot of women where they put 98% focus on just processing and talking.
Mm-hmm.
For men, they actually feel substantially better when there's substantive things of what do I need to do, action, and when they see the short and small goals. Dr. Jordan Peterson would touch on this.
Mm-hmm.
Clean your room, make your bed, do this, do that. And as you make more progress than you did the day before, you actually start to feel better, even if your situation didn't change yet.
Mm-hmm.
I can do something with the guy that's showing up to the gym and we're starting with him only lifting 20 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
I can work with him versus the guy that refuses to go to the gym but says he's unhappy about what his body looks like.
Gotcha.
So a life coach a certified life coach that may have a therapeutic background, man or woman, they're already hardwired to be exactly what men need because they're more action oriented, solution focused.
Mm-hmm.
You can look for solution oriented therapists. It's just, a lot less of the pool to choose from. And then when you get down to they got to not be too old, they got to be a man, they got to be black. Well, the field itself is already 75% women. And I told you about the psychologists and psychiatrists. So the racial component may or may not be there. But with me in the prolonged exposure task force, we took an evidence-based model,
Mm-hmm.
prolonged exposure, and we took a year of meetings to look at the model, see what we were missing, and saying, all right, the model's doing pretty well. A lot of people are doing well, but we still see a low retention rate, especially amongst Black people and particularly Black men. Maybe we need to have a greater emphasis in this area
Mm-hmm.
to acknowledge that if we want to talk about somebody's trauma, we have to factor in more environmental factors. We have to normalize some of the environmental factors and even normalize what's happening to them if their environment isn't changing, and that we can't try to make them see or act differently than the environment they're actually in. Example, if you're extremely hypervigilant as it relates to PTSD, gun violence, trauma, or whatever, it's not unusual for most people to be looking around when you go into a restaurant. You sit so you're facing the door.
Mhm.
You're always looking. You're always kind of a little bit on edge, a little bit alert. That's a very normal PTSD, potentially PTSD related response.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, and especially most men that grow up in urban areas, by default, that's what they have.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in an environment that warrants that to keep your butt alive, I'm not going to try to therapize that out of you. That's what's keeping you safe,
Got you.
right? So that's what I'm talking about, where that level of nuance, where it's showing up on the screen every time I do a test, every time I do an assessment, it's still there. It's still there. Just a little, a little hardwire, got a little anxiety, got this, got that. Some of these make sense until your environment changes. There's therapists that's trying to change people and force people and pushing people to change in environments that haven't changed.
Got you. That makes sense.
Yeah. So it's not about whether I was Black or know that.
Mm-hmm.
It's about where you train and where you exposed to recognize your gaps in knowledge.
You don't think as therapists some of them acknowledge that, or they just
No,
look
we take
past that?
we take one cultural diversity course in our master's level courses, and they throw you out there.
Mm.
And it leans more to the left with how to categorize people, and it's not the nuanced level of depth in terms of cultural differences
Mm-hmm.
or religious difference. It doesn't go nearly as deep in that area. It focuses more on superficial categories, and it actually functions more like cultural Marxism, where Marxism, for those that aren't aware, its primary economic framework is viewing primarily two classes of people: oppressed versus the oppressor. When you take that approach in terms of class as it relates to economics, and when you apply it to culture and gender, whichever group that you tend to align and see as more the oppressed, and the group that you see more as the oppressor, it's going to impact how you do therapy. So when you have left-leaning feminists, which includes men and women, by the way,
Yeah.
who have that mentality of believe all women, where men are guilty until proven innocent. And when you have a woman sitting in front of you, solo, single, individual, talking about her situation or relationship,
Mm-hmm.
if you have a mentality where she's the oppressed and he's the oppressor, how can that impact your recommendations? Is it going to be, girl, you need to work that out, you need to fix this, or you know what? The most important thing is your happiness. There are therapists that's in the field that's lacking cultural understanding, diversity understanding, the uniqueness of maleness, the uniqueness of boys. And this is why you get the overprescription of boys getting diagnosed with ADHD and being put on prescription meds that Dr. Umar would talk about. That's how it happens, because the environment's been feminized. Young boys by nature are going to play differently than young girls.
Right.
For sure.
They're going to be more physical. They're going to have
They
more
can't
energy.
sit still.
They're going to
be in a classroom. Yeah.
Exactly. So what happens then? Think of it this way: if the school is disciplining the boy, if the therapist is diagnosing him with ADHD, and if the psychiatrist is giving them meds, everybody's operating from the feminized mindset.
For sure.
So when you have a feminized field, multiple fields that function that way, now you understand why boys are getting missed. Now you understand why men are feeling like they're not being heard. Because when the field gets too dominated and taken over too much, not just by women, but more so women who have that type of ideology, it's not only wrong and unhealthy, it's actually dangerous. There are men who would still be here if therapists knew what the fuck they were doing when it came to men and boys.
I still think it's unfair, like you're bringing up the men and boys, right? And there's more women therapists but even if you think about, you know, there's a lot of lack of fathers at home. They're being taught by female teachers, most likely, most of them being white, you know what I'm saying? So in every aspect of life, men have to be kind of aligned with this feminist mindset, because we're all being led by women in a sense.
And now imagine imagine a boy that grows up like that and still you maintain a female mindset, feminist mindset as a boy, as a man working with boys and men. Now you have a man telling you things that you think, well, he's the professional, he's black, and he's a man. So I guess, nah, that's just a black woman in a black male's body.
Nah, you're right. It makes sense.
So you do therapy that way, you act that way, you vote that way.
And you chase that too. Yeah. You're looking for that.
There you go.
I'm thinking about the feminization of the boys, like you said, by the women. And then when these boys become feminine, it's because just what the women wanted. Now, when you go to the dating market, now the women are saying, we're not attracted to that. But you've been conditioning men this whole time to be more feminine, embrace their femininity. And then when they do that, now you're punishing them and shaming them and saying, this is not really what I'm attracted to. And then don't understand when we talk about the male loneliness epidemic. It's like you guys led us to this route. And then when we arrive, then you're saying like, nah, I don't want that. So, and then, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so when you see the hat saying "Make masculinity great again," now you see what I'm up against. This is way bigger than I just hate women. I've seen a field be completely not that long ago. The field was actually flipped. It was actually male dominated, and there was some pros and cons to it for sure. And now it's the same. And I've realized now that the issue is women have a working premise that more representation is just by default a good thing. So when men dominate a space, or when men dominate an industry, it's patriarchal, it's problematic, it's toxic, and men with power can be corrupt. When women do the reverse, where they can dominate a certain space, they are not envisioning a realm where there's women that can utilize the power, the leverage, the influence, and dominating a certain space. There's women who don't have the best intentions as well. And unfortunately, if more people are going to therapy than ever before, which they are, engaging in mental health services, and we're sicker, more unhealthy, mentally unwell, and less together than ever before, and the boys and men in mass aren't going, that's not a reflection on the problem is just the boys and men. Maybe it's the product itself. Maybe it's the field itself. What I'm saying, and why this therapist that's coming against me and why they're trying to come for my license, I mentioned doing off camera, like within 2 weeks of me going viral, my license ID number, where I went to school, what my degrees were, X, Y, and Z. These people were looking for anything that they can claim that I'm illegitimate. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. You going against the academia, like that's the
Yeah, because because this is way beyond just the field. It's from the professors. It's from the pipeline. Everybody that's bought into it is supporting it, and they're all functioning as a unit. And when if we ever get to talking about the whole manosphere and blue pill, whatever, this is blue pill. It's what you've been socialized to accept.
Mm-hmm.
This is why when your mother makes mistakes and your mother has shortcomings, she did her best. But when your father has mistakes,
I'd be so frustrated with hearing that.
Right? You have two tiers of how to view a situation based off of who did it. This is why when a woman that's extremely verbally, emotionally abusive, I'll view it this way. A lot of ladies cheating. That's usually a big issue for why it brings a lot of people into therapy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Women will bring their husband or boyfriend in for cheating and never acknowledge that they cheated themselves.
For sure.
Right? Or they'll see their cheating as somehow different. Well, my needs weren't being...
It's justifiable.
My needs weren't being met. Well, apparently his wasn't either, right? But they see those as two totally different categories because, again, they're using two totally different frameworks. When they're looking, and this is the crazy, it's not just women on the street. These are educators. These are teachers. These are doctors. These are lawyers. These are judges. If you have people with this mentality, a overly feminized mentality, not a balanced mentality, not a family-centered approach. They have a femme-centric, gynocentric approach. Who's going to get harsher sentences for the same crime, a man or a woman?
Not a woman.
Okay. So now you see what I'm talking about. It's happening in therapy. It's happening in the justice system. It's happening in mental health. And I'm screaming to the men, y'all are contributing to your own demise. If you keep voting, aligning, sleeping with, giving children to, and marrying women who think this way.
I also want to bring up, because even with y'all speaking on that, it makes me think about, how depressed some men are, or, the frustrations we got to go through. And even the fact that I was looking up, and I had some numbers, but can't remember them off the top of my head. I know how you guys be on YouTube. That the...
Gotta cite your sources.
The self-deleting numbers have increased across the globe, for men of all race, all group, even men, black men, you know what I'm saying? So I want to ask, like, even I'm gonna start with you, Eli, like, what are some things that black men face that may cause depression? And to you, Jeff, I want to also ask, people that are considering self-deletion, since there's a high increase in that. How do you, as a person on the outside, knowing someone has those issues, handle that without making that a problem?
Yeah, I think men's number one issue, especially black men, is their ability to not ask for help. I think we think that we have to do everything by ourselves, and it's almost looked at as you're less of a man if you ask for help. And I think we carry that so much. Our ego allows us to carry that in a very detrimental way. Obviously, when it becomes now it's leading into self-deletion. And I think that's what a lot of men are experiencing, the burden of performance, how unfair the system is. No matter how much you play by the rules and how much you do things the right way, it's almost like you are not getting rewarded at the rate you think you should be. And then you just feel like the odds are always constantly stacked against you as a black man. And, I think that contributes a lot to the depression a lot of men believe. And I did see that stat about black men. Men in general committing self-deleting themselves, but black men are amongst the leaders in that when it comes to all ethnic groups of men. And like it says, it's just a lot of burden, whether it's we got to go and deal with society, and some of us got to come home and deal with our woman that is supposed to, bring us that peace. And I think a lot of women are not, they keep hearing men say peace, and they keep dismissing it like, what do you mean peace? Like, you should be your own peace. And we're trying to explain to them like, no, like I need this. My house should be a peace. a form of peace. And the fact that a lot of men are coming home and they're sitting in the driveway for 2 hours before that says a lot. You know what I mean? And I don't think women truly understand that, or maybe they, their ego themselves can't understand why men wouldn't be happy with them, or maybe they don't see how they're contributing to that man not being happy in that moment. But yeah, I think there's a lot, and I think my main thing is I think men need to have this ego death almost, in a sense, and just dissolve their ego and don't be afraid to ask for help. And I think a lot of us get caught in that.
You can also start by mentioning what are most men depressed about, or pushing them towards that, and going into the answer about the self-deleting.
Yeah, man. And so the stats are pretty scary. I think we're in a 20% more likely to experience major depressive disorder in comparison to the general population. In terms of the self-deletion rates, I think we're like 4 times more likely than our Black female counterparts. Even in terms of, I think, schizophrenia, in terms of percentages, will be diagnosed at a higher percentage, but we're prescribed less than our white male counterparts. So there's a lot of different things, and Eli kind of touched on a couple of them. The most obvious, but I do think something is connected to it. The most obvious and the starting point is most men, by the time they get to that point, they genuinely do feel like they have no one. Their life has been conditioned. Combo of being born a man in a society where people expect certain things from you, and also being born in a capitalist society, for sure. But it wouldn't matter if it's capitalist to a degree, because there's other societies that function very similarly. You're seen as effectively worthless as a man if you cannot provide. Start and stop there. People can say that's not true. People can act like it's not true. But you see what happens when you lose a job. You see what happens up front when you can't afford to take a woman to a certain place. They're telling you in the front end, and they're telling you when they're walking out the door. If you cannot produce, you are effectively useless as a man.
You're hearing as a
that
kid.
is real. And that's not just some internalized thing that men just decided for themselves. It is societal, it is cultural, and it is ingrained, but it's also reinforced by the women in your life, whether you realize it or not. That's a real thing. So a woman, I told my wife this all the time, she could lose her job today. My thought process is, well, how long before I think I got to leave to find somebody else?
You don't look at her as less of a woman because she lost her job.
That's not what we get in return. That's the reality of being born a man. That comes with it. So for a lot of men, a lot of reasons why they go through the divorce, a lot of reasons why they end up alone, why they even end up self-deleting, is actually money and finance related. That's one. Women will attach their respect to whether or not he's able to produce a certain amount. There's men that work, but because he doesn't produce enough, I can't date him. I can't respect him. They're telling you in advance what's the price tag for their conditional femininity and submission.
For sure.
So the man that's meeting it, oh yeah, I'm hitting 6 figures. Well, what happens if he has a pay cut? Does your respect of femininity and softness go away now? Huh? So that's
the divorce rate prove that.
Exactly. So that's number one. Number two, children. There's men that are staying in relationships for the sake of having access to the children with women that don't like them and don't love them and haven't had sex with them at all this year. Right? So they're kind of stuck and trapped in a horrible decision that they made. And now you have to choose between staying in a loveless relationship with a person that potentially struggles with accountability or ever taking ownership or apologizing, and seeing your kids on the weekends or during the summers. Horribly bad choices. Right? And then false allegations. Happened to me personally. Probably other men as well. Even false allegations that weren't that bad. Where women that kind of, they didn't like, the fact that you chose somebody else, or once you got to know her, you realize it ain't for me. And now all of a sudden they start making up all kind of crazy stuff about you, about he wanted me, or he was in love with me, or this and that. Character assassination. So between character assassination, weaponization of children and sex, isolation, the expectation for you to always be strong, and we can't forget that when men actually tried it, whole host of men did open up. A whole host of men did try it. A lot of men that say you can't open up to a woman did at one point. You have a group that loves to talk and loves to share their emotions, but have a really difficult time with how to deal with and handle a man's emotions. And they start to lose attraction. They start to pull back.
Yo, facts.
Women will start, even if you got anxiety about finances, sometimes telling your woman ends up making things far worse. You almost would rather struggle on your own to try to figure it out than tell her, and now know she ain't gonna say it out loud, but now there's a clock in her head of how long you need to resolve this before she's out. And they rarely announce the day that they're out. They usually start planning in advance. Family know, extended family know, friends know, her parents know. Everybody else knows about the plans of what she's making. And then, like what the guys say, it came out of nowhere. It really didn't. And everybody else knew all the information. She's just doing just the bare minimum to kind of keep it going until she's ready to leave. That's what hits a lot of men. When you talked about self-deletions, unlike a lot of therapists who's in this space, and a lot of people who talk about this stuff and how they think men should handle this, I was the person who actually was on the bridge. I was actually the person that was standing on the Ben Franklin Bridge, staring out at the water in the middle of the night, with helicopters going around trying to flash and figure out where they could find me, with cops on the ground, deciding if I still wanted to be here. When I came out of that and left that hospital, life was totally flipped upside down. People that you thought would have been there weren't there. Family that you thought would have reached out didn't. Friends that you reached out to and showed up for, even during emergency situations, they didn't do it for you.
For sure. I definitely know what you mean.
Okay? And what makes it worse is if you deal in relationships as a man with women that you have mutual relationships with, friendships with. When the relationship ends, doesn't he lose a lot of relationships? Doesn't he lose a lot of friendships in the process? And what's the narrative of how many ladies talk about the ex? Is it positive? He was a great guy? Ever. So now you're being painted in the worst light possible. They don't usually know much of anything that she did. You're the villain. And when I went through that situation, whether it was pastors, Christians, religious people, friends, family, you had the small group of people who showed up, especially consistently, and the large group of people that you never heard from again. There were people who stopped talking to me from that situation, who didn't reach out to me till 2 months ago because my podcast is trending. What I now saw is what men were experiencing before they took their life. The reality that most people only want to be there when times are good and when you can provide something. That's real. It's not perceived. It's not made up. Most people, and including many therapists, aren't even designed to know how to help a man, let alone listen to one. In the Bible, the book of Job, for those who aren't familiar, I believe it's like the oldest book in the Bible. There was this character called Job, and some crazy story about God and Satan having a conversation, damn near a bet, on what can happen to Job, and to decide whether or not he's going to turn his back and lose his faith in God. He lost his children. He lost his business. He lost damn near everything. And all God left with was a wife. I don't even know if that was a blessing. And what's crazy is after he lost that and went through so much stuff, for an extended period of time, his friends came and sat down next to him. And they sat in silence and just sat with him. Sometimes that's far more effective than saying anything or making any recommendations, especially when you're not trained to know what to do. If more people learn to shut up and just listen to men and not listen to respond or even listen to tell them what's next steps, I think more men would talk. That's the reality. They're not in environments where people actually want to listen and actually would be open to helping.
I appreciate you sharing that, man, and I'm glad that you're here with us having this conversation. You said something about character assassination, right? And I'm thinking about it, and I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I feel like character assassination is more dangerous than assassination. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm just thinking about the two concepts, like assassination, somebody just taking your life and that's it. And then a character assassination is something that you have to live with for the rest of your life, that people are constantly judging you. You know what I mean? So even when I think about a lot of black men into society, you know, before they was assassinating Malcolm and Martin and all of these prominent black leaders, now they realize, damn, that's too obvious. You know what I mean? So what's the next step? Character assassination.
There
Like,
you
you know
go.
what I mean? You alienate yourself from the rest of society. Everybody turns their back on
Yep.
you. And and you saying that just made me think about, you know, a lot of the instances of Black men in society and their character being assassinated. You know?
Yeah, and listen, it's not unique to Black men. Again, when the feminization of culture, and for those that aren't aware, Helen Andrews, make sure you look her up on YouTube, read her article on the feminization of culture and society. Um, this is where Believe All Women comes from. This is where Me Too can be abused, where they know how society and the courts and the court of public opinion views female emotions in response to a man being accused of something wrong. They know that by default, she's already going to be assumed to be telling the truth. So now you're in an environment as a man, like you said, that's why a lot of men end up taking themselves out. Literally over something that wasn't true. It's real. And this is why I'm trying to explain to dudes, y'all gotta wake up. If y'all see this stuff in your families and your friends on social media, unfollow these people. Stop subscribing to them. Stop supporting their lifestyle with OnlyFans subscriptions. Stop taking them out on dates. Stay as far away from them as possible. I want you to view far left people who don't see the full humanity of men as the equivalent of white supremacists. They're female supremacists. It's no different. They don't see value in you. And they see you as disposable. And when you piss them off, when you break up with them, when you pick a better option, just realize at any point in time they can do that to you. I don't say be scared of women. I just say be much more mindful of the women that you choose to engage with.
I just don't understand how that, and I hate because people always like, oh, you guys always make everything a race thing. But that same, you know, someone character could be attacked from any other group. It is only effective because they're a black man. You know what I mean? You talk about Vince McMahon, you talk about the dude that had the Playboy Mansion, you know what I'm saying? Elvis was with a fucking 15-year-old publicly. Like, you know what I'm saying? So
now, to be fair, Vince McMahon did get sued mighty handsomely. He had to step down, but I hear you.
But
he ain't going to jail.
Yeah, and he got a lot of money. And his son-in-law and daughter still runs the shit.
Yep.
So
money's still in the family, like, you know,
I don't know if it's really, you know what I'm saying? Not saying, oh yeah, I'd rather that way, but I'm just saying, like, they're not held accountable to that same standard.
Absolutely not to the same degree. And I agree with you, man. This is where guys start waking up to the manosphere red pill talk. And typically the men that don't get it and the men that don't accept it, it hasn't happened to them yet. They probably didn't go through a divorce. They probably haven't been had their children weaponized against them in the court system. They probably haven't been abused yet with the alimony process. They probably haven't had a false allegation or a woman just lie just for the sake of lying, just to try to shame or destroy the situation he actually does have going on. If he hasn't gone through that, he still views the potential of female nature through the lens of Disney. He still views it through the lens of what his mama said. And the problem is when the real world hits you, now you see guys go to these extreme places on the internet. Now you see them take themselves out. Now you see them have this hatred towards women because they felt like they've been lied to their entire life. If you act right, if you follow the rules, if you're a good boy, there will be a great, loving, appreciative woman on the other side. And what we're
by far the worst information.
Yeah. And what's crazy is if you don't learn that lesson sooner, you'll potentially be setting yourself up because of a lack of experience. You'll be setting yourself up not only for failure with knowing what to recognize and what to check in terms of female manipulative tactics. And remember, female aggression and male aggression tends to operate somewhat fairly differently. Fairly differently. Yeah, they can be physical at times, but much and most of their forms of aggression are character assassination, gossip, innuendo, all that type, lying is deceit, all that type of stuff. A lot of guys, when they're really, really upset, they just get really physical. So, and they may get verbally abusive at times with lashing out. But women, their mouth
is a feminine trait, I believe.
Exactly, and their mouth is a weapon. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. So, When I say this to guys, if you want to know as a starting point whether or not she's a liability or asset, how does she speak to you and of you and about you?
Mm-hmm.
That'll already start you. That'll save you a whole lot of hassle.
Speak life.
So if she say, if he can't handle me, out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do Cheesecake Factory, out. Took my wife to Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah.
It was good enough prior to 2020,
Yeah.
right? So what I'm saying is when you start hearing any of this stuff in a real easy cheat code, because they can't help themselves with what I'm about to say. I can say it out loud and they're still going to do it anyway. When a woman or a famous woman does something wrong or disrespectful, in general, to herself or to the man that she's with,
Mm-hmm.
does she still have to find a way to defend it? If it's outright objectively wrong, bad, and disrespectful,
Mm-hmm.
does she go out of her way to still defend it? If she does, recognize she doesn't view female negative behaviors in the way you do. If she's doing that, if she's seeing that and defending that for a woman she don't know, imagine what she'll co-sign for her homegirls. Imagine what she'll excuse for herself. If Cardi B leaves her marriage to get pregnant to another man that has 3 or 4 other women pregnant
at the same time,
and you're saying congratulations and this is something to celebrate, and that this is
while being married,
and that this isn't exactly the reflection of what Africans and all these other people are saying is wrong in our culture and group, that's the woman you need to leave and restrict access to your resources, restrict access to your time. I'm telling you guys right now, if you keep playing with fire, you gonna get burned, and you're not gonna have the money that Shannon Sharp has to move past it. It's far better for y'all to draw the line in the sand in every major category, economically, familially, societally, even politically. If you do not draw that line, don't be surprised with the consequences when her emotions overrides her logic, and you're in the crosshairs.
I agree. And I think you both kind of touched on this too, but I want to get a direct answer because I think as a man and as a Black man, you know, purpose is our lifeline. Like, we thrive through purpose. We want to do this, we want to do that, and we tend to believe that we have to do that on our own. And Eli touched on this, and he said, I believe you said something about like Black men don't know, you know, how to ask for help.
Yeah.
And I want to know, you know, from you guys, you know, what does help look like? Why aren't we asking for help? And how do we ask for help?
I think what help looks like is, again, a lot of times I'm just getting back to ego, and a lot of men. Now, this is not just specific to Black men, but a lot of men in general have this ego to them that can be good, but it also could be detrimental. Like, you know what I mean? And I think one of the things about asking for help is that you don't want to feel like you owe anybody. So you would rather, like, you know what, and it's probably because of the experiences we had with one another where we might have had asked for help and maybe somebody used it against us. It's just like when women weaponize you being vulnerable and sharing your emotions, and they weaponize it to you. And then now men is like, I'm never gonna, you know, express myself in that way to a woman ever, because I understand how it feels to be hurt. So I think that's what happens too with the helping, is like it might have been in situations where we did ask for help and it was weaponized against us. And now it's just like, damn, you know what? Fuck it, I'd rather just struggle by myself than to ask somebody for help that's going to use it against me when I'm most vulnerable. And again, I think you have to build a community of people that you could trust and you could depend on, and ask those people for help. You know what I mean? And I get it. Like, you know, not everybody can be in position to help, but, you know, even if they, you know, I don't know if it's financial, whatever the case is, maybe me not helping you is giving you money because maybe I don't have it, but maybe I could push you towards somebody that can get it. Or maybe, hey, we could brainstorm some ideas for you to, like, you know, there's other ways to help that can be, you know, just as effective. And I think, you know, it comes down to community, and building that community of people that you can rely on. I think that's what, you know, men could do.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the points that you made. One of the things that I think about and I help with people with this is I start with what you care about and what you're passionate about, and come up with goals and short-term and long-term goals to help get you in that direction. And then I always encourage men to start doing things socially with others. It keeps you active. It keeps you social. It keeps you not kind of isolated into yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you also see progress in your daily life, which tends to make you feel better. Men that are purposeless typically don't have goals, and they typically either don't have a good support system,
Yeah.
or they don't have a social support system at all. So those are two very easy like things. And then number three, if people feel like I got too many ideas, I'm kind of all over the place, I never end up finishing things, you maybe should meet with a career development counselor
Mm.
where they can kind of slow you down and start working you and giving you actionable steps and actually helping you complete your applications,
Got you.
helping you to sign up for certain job offers, making sure your resume looks good. I think what you're getting at is men are expected to have automatic competence.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if your father was there or not. It doesn't matter if you had a good role model. It doesn't matter if you've seen the example. You're expected as a man to by default to have competence. And when a lot of guys don't have the competence, they just try to figure it out on their own. And this is what ends up making things kind of worse. A lot of young teenagers try to figure it out on their own, and that's why they're out in the street. So even down to who to go to, I started two months ago or so our men's virtual self-improvement group.
Mm-hmm.
Any man, anybody can join that or any other group like that right now. It's virtual.
Mm-hmm.
It's a click. It's I forget how much it is per month, but it's enough to where it's like $12 or something crazy a week. It's not what you think it is. And you're talking and you're meeting men from all over the country who may be older or younger, may have gone through what you're going through or have been there before.
Mm-hmm.
And each of us have a different lens on, you know, what we've been through, what we've learned, and some feedback and positive feedback and advice and support. When they get really good, they'll eventually be challenging each other with posting pictures of them at the gym. Where y'all at? Then they'll be like, yo, I'm hanging out with my kids. Yo, I'm on vacation. Now you're doing life with men that are trying to self-improve. So you're not just stuck to the men that just happens to be in your circle who may not be doing much and they got no purpose.
Yeah.
You're intentionally putting yourself in a position with men who are choosing and saying, regardless of how good life is or isn't, I want things to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be better.
Yeah.
You're attaching yourself to men that are moving. What happens when you change your circle?
Yep.
You change.
Mm-hmm.
You start seeing purpose differently.
Yep.
Beginning of this year, I joined a social club. I never joined one before.
Yeah.
Right in Philly. It's expensive as hell, by the way. Y'all need to give me a Fiddler Club. Y'all need to give me a discount. And it was like a whole different world of Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
Born there, worked there for years, grew up there when I was young, been living in there for 20 years. And I step inside this Fiddler Club, and it is an entirely different world.
Gotcha.
Of people, opportunities, networking experiences. Now I'm like, cats are offering me opportunities to go golfing with them.
Mm-hmm.
Cats is telling me I did the members dinner thing or whatever.
It's like a country club or something?
Social club.
Social
club. Yeah, they got them in every city. Y'all got a million out here in New York.
I don't know if New York, we can't afford it already.
Yeah. But I tell you this, I probably couldn't either.
Mm-hmm.
But I intentionally put myself in a position that warranted me having to do more, to make more, to justify me keep going.
Got you.
Sometimes buying the expensive gym membership will force your ass to go than paying $5-10 at the Planet Fitness and knowing you never gonna go.
I'm gonna lose $5.
Part of purpose, part of mission, part of masculinity is the journey of embracing the unknown, embracing adversity, embracing rejection. You have a lot of men that have been so coddled now.
Yep.
Society, mothers, you name it, to where they now want to approach life where they don't want to date, don't want to marry. Now they want to stay away from women and everything. And now they're functionally men that are living functionally very close to purposeless lives and are going to be considered genetic dead ends. Your ancestors survived and made it all the way up into the process for you to say, I'm done. You're the guy, at least the guy that took himself out of here, he had enough courage to end it than for you to have given up and give us another 20 years of nothing. So purpose is putting yourself in positions and clinging to and moving towards goals, mission, things you care about. And I have a saying that I tell myself periodically is, I'm trying to learn as a man that effed up a lot in my past. I want to be a man that my daughter could want to find when she gets older.
Yeah.
And I want to be a man that my grandfather could be proud that I'm carrying the family's name.
Yeah.
That's purpose. You're trying to leave the world and the people that depend on you to be in a better position than they were prior to you. That's purpose.
I hear you too.
Mhm.
And I think my experience is a little different, and maybe the same for you too, Eli, only because a lot of us lost our childhood.
Mhm.
And I'm speak for myself. I lost my childhood, and I had to become not my mother's husband, but I had to become the man of the house.
Yeah.
And I had no man to, you know, idolize or wanted to stand and like, yo, I'm Genghis Khan. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
I had nothing of that. I had nobody to want me to be proud for or say, yo, I'm a, I'm a Johnson. I'm a this. I'm a that. You know what I'm saying? I'm the top tier man for my children.
Yeah.
So now I live based off what you're saying in the same words, but it just like it feels like so much of a disadvantage.
It is.
Because it's like I had to be my mother's,
surrogate.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
not husband because I don't want nobody be on no freaky stuff, but you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But I had to play the man of the house and she's the woman of the house. And then it's like, I've been, raising my little sister and then becoming a parent. I had never had the time to enjoy a childhood or anything like that. So I think a lot of men are at a disadvantage becoming men that they already drained by the time it's time for them to look out for themselves.
Yeah.
And with the purpose of protecting, providing, you just did it for your mother and the family, and now you got to do it for a woman in the family. And then it's just like, and we go back to the whole, self-deleting and exhaustion and depression. And it's just like, when did things switch up for me? You know what I'm saying? So
I'm gonna tell you this, man. 2 things. I'm proud of you.
Appreciate you.
But not on some corny like therapist. Yeah. I realize we don't hear it enough.
For sure.
Right. Now, I met you for the first time today. And considering what y'all built, what you're handling, what you're shouldering, and hearing all the work you're doing to make sure your kids have a better outcome or a better childhood than you had. Bro, I'm proud of you.
That means a lot. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah. And number 2, when I was 15 years old, when my parents split up, they had a big bad fight, argument or whatever. My dad packed up his bags. I'm downstairs in the living room. It's pitch black, dark, nighttime. My dad comes down the steps with a couple of his suitcases. And he looks me in the eye and he says, now you're man of the house. When we had to move from that house because we couldn't afford it because my parents had split up, we moved into the projects, which they eventually tore down, which is the Gardens in Mount Holly, New Jersey, for people that know. When we moved into that property, and my room was so small that I was able to stretch my hands and touch both sides of the room. When my family on my mom's side had to come to help us move into that spot, when everybody was trickling out, my uncle was walking out too. And when I walked out with him, he said, listen, man, you're the man of the house now. I'm 15. I heard it twice.
They meant that shit.
Yeah, and I didn't know what that meant. So I understand that dynamic. I legitimately do. And a lot of our masculinity is stuff that's not going to be handed to us. Life is life. We're here now, and we got to do something about it. I think this is why this is part of my purpose. And I don't think we have one purpose. I think we got many, right? Sure. I think it's being a father, being a good husband, making sure the people that work under 40 or 50 people that work under me can keep their jobs. There's a lot of moves and things that I know a lot's being asked of me.
Yeah.
I think my job is find truth, find healing, and share it with the people that want it. So if I'm telling men, join a social group, join a men's whatever, go on a men's retreat, just effing try it. Just try it because you're going to find your niche. You're going to find your community. But if you don't seek it out, you're on your own.
Prime's exclusive wildcard playoff game is Saturday night. Jordan Love and the Packers take on Caleb Williams and the Bears. Not a Prime member? Sign up for a 30-day free trial to stream the game.
That's going to be caught for the touchdown.
NFC North rivals square off in the latest chapter of the NFL's oldest feud. The Packers and Bears in Prime's exclusive wildcard playoff game. Saturday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Only on Prime. Sign up for a 30-day free trial today. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
Oh,
It's funny because I was just talking to you, right? And I told Eli the other day, I said, damn, bro, like the best I felt in a long time was when like we used to meet up weekly and we used to just hang out. No woman, no work, just being 5'6" jackasses. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I was like, yo, bro, we haven't had that in a very long time. And when you speak of that, like, you know, a men's social club or whatever the case, that was a form of that for us. And I think when that became absent to me, it's like I don't have beef with nobody, but I just feel like that emptiness. I can't explain it, but I know what you mean. Like that bonding and that togetherness that we had, it just completed me because it took away from all the pressure I have to handle as a partner, a father, a business owner, a employee. You know, I'm like, damn, but when I came here every Friday night from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., I felt like nothing in the world existed. You know what I'm saying? But me being a free man. So I do appreciate you saying that, and I agree.
And that's the part women do not understand. Like when they always try to shame us for guys wanting to spend time with their guy friends, and then they use the sign language, call you gay, sassy, all this other, and they don't realize like that is a form of peace for us. Like, you know what I mean? And they can't comprehend it. So the thing that they do is go to question his sexuality, or he must be gay, they must be secretly down low, they must be like
or make you feel bad for you wanting to go, right?
Yeah, like how you chilling with your bros and you got the pussy at home and it's like, bro, like why are you smiling and I'm not there? Like it's just so much shaming and there's no understanding going into it. Like you know what I mean? So
real quick, based on what you just said, that happens for a lot of guys post 30.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, and it makes sense. Typically, post 30 is when guys' money starts to get right. Responsibilities start to kick in. If they have a woman in their life, they're getting more locked in. The family, the kids. It tends to happen post 30, where a lot of guys' social networks start to drop off. And this is why these guys are on an island relationally. They're working, they're grinding, they're dealing with the kids, they're dealing with the woman and life's issues, and they barely get to see her and interact with their friends where they have a moment to not be responsible for anyone else.
Yeah,
that's really what's going on. And then you, like you said, you are dealing with a percentage of women who are shaming and isolating these men to where I understand. Listen, my wife banned me from a few places, right? Atlanta, Colombia, and
passport, bro. No,
Brazil, Colombia, and Atlanta specifically. I've been banned from those places, but other than that, I can go out and hang out with my guys.
She ain't got to worry about the woman's chasing you. I'll tell you that.
Nah, like in the sense of like, I'm at a different place of purpose now.
Yeah,
and I'm learning that the more you fall in love with purpose, the less you want to be distracted, and that applies not to just other women. That applies to my woman.
I agree. I went out yesterday and I was just like, why am I here? Like I went out to like a bar or club, whatever. And I was there for 10 minutes. And I was ready. Like, how did I find this fun? Not saying it can't be fun, but it just.
Oh, no. It was fun now. Hold on now. I'm not going to deny.
I'm saying at that moment, I don't know if I'm just old and over. Like, I don't know. I'm just not in the, I'm in a relationship, of course, too. But the whole purpose of it was, to chase women. So it's like, why am I in here? This is not my room anymore. You know what I'm saying? So
them $200, $300 bottles don't be tasting the same once you older and got real responsibilities and everything. They don't taste the same to me.
I agree. I hope y'all enjoying the show. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Make sure y'all subscribe. And if you on Patreon, you're already watching this. You already, you've seen it first.